been a hot minute since I've been updating my weblog, and I've been feeling a bit estranged from social media last several months. I guess it's been kind of private that way, but I want to catch up in one fell swoop with this video and show you a little bit of what I'm making and what I've been up to and what's been happening lately. I'm Dennis Hollingsworth. This is my studio in Brooklyn. It's May of 2025. I'd like to start with a show at the Metropolitan last fall called Sienna, The Rise of Painting. It was quite a nice surprise to see, the subject matter of the show. You'd always expect to be gratified by the presentation, but walking into the show, seeing the pieces there, especially the little panel pieces, something caught my eye. Something was signaling to me that there was something special there. I have been protecting my work in the sense, since my work is so three-dimensional painting. It's a common practice for me to, as I make a panel, also make a travel frame for it. Here we have some examples. This is a 2014 painting. Another example from 2021. And let's just pull out another. This is from 2020. And these travel frames has always attracted my attention. I've always liked them a lot because they're frames. And the great things about frames is that, well, they protect the paintings. It's a really beautiful thing when you sell a painting to a collector and they decide to frame it. It's quite an honor that they would do that. A grace note. But I've always thought it too that frames were kind of like an astronaut space suit. As there's this weird thing that when an artist finishes a work, as it leaves a studio, it's supposed to be rested in time, or that's a common assumption, and quite reasonable, I guess. But there will always be changes to the work, of course. The paint will cure over time. It'll be slightly different a few years in than it was when it was fresh out of the studio, especially fresh after it's been freshly painted. And hopefully all those changes work out well. I think I've told that story before when it hasn't worked out well for me in the past, but I've always come to appreciate how a painting will mature into its age. But there is a common expectation that you're to rest it. And so when a painting is in a frame, especially work on paper that's behind glass, it's definitely like a spacesuit. As it travels into the future, rested at the time it was made, not collecting dust if it's behind glass, or protected by a collector, kept away from the sun, all those things. So these travel frames are supposed to protect these paintings from, so they could be handled, not only by me in the studio, but also by art handlers, or how they get to a gallery. And often they're discarded, but I wish that collectors and galleries would keep them on hand, because they're also an artifact of my making in the studio. As mundane as they are, there's something about them that I think is special. So when I walked into the exhibition at the Met, I was struck by the hinged small panel paintings, and it struck me that that there might be a possibility in making art for me. And I've always felt that a work of art, as it leaves the studio and as after the life of the artist, a work of art has to argue for its survival at every moment, especially the moments where there's hinges in life where the collector or the institution has to decide its disposition. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately, the last several years, that I have to make pieces that are best equipped for arguing for their survival, so that every hinge moment in its life that it can be successful as it goes from studio to the hands of a collector in the honored place of maybe a living room or bedroom, or in a gallery in the better corners of the gallery, or in the hands of an institution, not languishing in storage, but up for people to see. So, but to equip the work to survive at that critical moment of interrogation, I guess, when people are looking at it and determining whether it will go either in the garage or the trash heap, or to a collector's favored spot in their home, or an institution's pride of place that is well equipped to do that. But along that journey, I've been thinking that there might be a possibility to fuse the travel frames with the work itself. And looking at the artworks in the exhibition, Sienna, a Horizon painting at the Met, I found it, those panel pieces, those hinged kind of book-like pieces, very, very special. And so last fall, I decided to buy a router for the first time and learn how to use the router. And I routed a bunch of lumber, and I fashioned them into these things. And so I wanted it to be something that felt special as you held it, something full of information, and these will gather information as time goes on. Right now it has the traditional signature and direction up, but there'll be other things going on them, more than just requisite data like the dimensions and stuff, but also kind of like notes or something. That this would be kind of like, I don't know, something that has expressive potential. And these are not finished in that sense. So as I title them, and as I think more about them and adorn them, so they will be complete. And then I'll varnish them up in order to protect it, and then make them an object that you would like to handle, at least. And something that opens to the artwork that's protected by the piece. And so this is one of 3 test pieces I made after seeing that show, just to see if the idea would work. And I think it did. I feel good about it. And I've decided to move in this direction. So I've been making monochromes like this. So this idea of monochrome and this idea of the frame as coextensive with the painting interested me as well. And what I noticed in the Siena show was how the colors in the painting were blending in the architectural frame together. It happened with a lot of gold leaf, and I don't want to get sentimental with these things and go in the gold leaf direction, but I wanted to make it something of our time, inspired by that time, what's now well over 500 years ago. So these are those paintings. And that's what I've been working on all this time. But there's also a mean time, and quite a mean time, that I've been dealing with. And what I want to do is tell you that story too. So these are panels I've been building out lately. There are 14 of them of various dimensions. And I'm coating them multiple coats of paint. These won't be the final colors, of course. I'm going to put at least 3 or 4 coats of paint on them and then sort of steer the ship into port slowly but surely. But the meantime, in the story is, last fall, I went for my annual checkup. I go to the VA hospital in Manhattan and had a blood test. Everything was routine. And this time, my PSA numbers came in high, which is alarming. PSA, prostate specific antigen. Okay, right about here, I've got to make an annotation. In this video, and for most of my life, when I say prostate, I usually say prostrate. Some friends correct me insistently, and I can't help but do it. It just comes out prostrate. It's the way I'm built, I guess. So, yeah, prostate is what I mean when I say prostrate. However, you know, you are quite prostrate much of the time when you're getting your prostate treated. End annotation. And I had high numbers. What were those numbers? Not that I have to recount every little detail that happened, but I think it was like 15 or something. And the number should be much lower than that. So, before Christmas, shortly before Christmas, the doctor sat me down and delivered the bad news that I have prostate cancer. Prostate cancer. At the urology briefing, I was presented with 2 options, radiation or surgery. And I've resisted things like surgery. Not that it was the first time I had the option, and I declined it. I don't want surgery. So radiation, well, how hard could it be? It's a day at the beach. So I chose radiation therapy as a way to take on this thing. Plus, there's an issue about surgery. After I dived into all the information. It's pretty hairy, an avalanche of things to learn about. And what I learned was surgery is, there's no medical procedure that's 100% successful, but the percentage of success for surgery is somewhat less than the success for radiation. And it's not uncommon that if the surgery doesn't cut all the cancer out, and you're not able to physically get the cancer out, you have to go to radiation anyway. So I thought, oh, go straight to radiation. Plus, cancer is microscopic, it's cellular. So, you know, the thing with prostate cancer is it's within what they call the, there's a word for it. It's like a sac that the prostate is in. It's a capsule. And so long as it stays in the capsule, no problem. They can cut out the prostate from the capsule. And if you get it all and it doesn't leave the capsule, you're all right. So, so I thought, okay, I'm good to go. I'm going to get zapped with some radiation and I'll be fine. Statistically, percentage of success radiation is just a hair better than surgery. And there's these things in surgery I wanted to avoid: the recuperation and the risks for continence and the risks for sexual potency and stuff like that. So I want to avoid all that business. What the doctors don't tell you is all those other things, and they started to creep up on me. First of all, I had to get a biopsy. Not very fun. And they took 22 samples, 22 snips of my prostate, extremely painful, to test under the microscope. And what I've learned is it's almost comic how, in a way, it's crude. I mean, look, my doctors are great people. Medicine is you know, a great achievement in our lives and our civilization. I don't want to put it down. But it comes all down to a visual inspection under the microscope of these cells. And they have these 4 grades of cancer according to a morphological distribution from order to disorder. And they throw them in one of the 4 buckets, and you get graded along those buckets, and that determines the protocols that they follow. And what happened was mine was determined to be cancer. And so down a protocol path I was sent. I got an initial MRI called a PET scan. Don't know if there's a difference between an MRI and a PET. Maybe there isn't. Anyway, I went into the machine. They looked at it, and through their analysis, I did indeed have cancer. So those two things. But they detected cancer outside of my prostate, which means it had metastasized in one of my lymph glands. Now, the lymph glands, they're all over your body, but in this situation, I think of it as the pelvic basket. If the prostate is like a plum at the bottom of the basket, all around it, like grapes, are lymph nodes. And in one of those lymph nodes, when I had a PET scan, subsequently, a PET scan is a scan where they inject a radioactive solution into your veins. Funny thing is they have to take it out of a lead box to put it in a syringe and then squirt it inside you. Crazy. But it lights up the cancer. You see it. So whenever you look at a PET scan, you'll see the bladder light up, and you'll see your urethra light up. So they saw an illumination indicating cancer in the lymph node. That was pretty alarming. 1 in 8 men in America get prostate cancer. So I'm one of those lucky ones. It's a second leading form of cancer death for men as well. So again, another basket, another category. Not fun to be in. Yeah. So once they determine that it might be metastatic, all of a sudden I find myself down another protocol path. It ruled out surgery altogether, which is like no big, I didn't want surgery in the first place, because once it's out of the capsule of the prostate, you can't cut it willy-nilly out of that area. So no big deal. They'll just radiate that general region, and they could spotlight those areas. And the radiation at the VA, the radiation therapy is just as sophisticated as other places. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, sometimes it's a lot to take in. Anyway, what they don't tell you up front is all these other things. The biopsy, for example, I didn't expect that to be as rude a shock as it was. To get radiation, you have to have marker placements put in. That was like intense. Through your taint, they're injecting 7 needles, 4 of which are lidocaine to numb you out, 2 shallow and 2 more deeper, and then they place 3 markers around the prostate so that the radiation software and the machine can target the radiation. It has 3 markers to register the dosage. Okay. I went through that experience. Glad not to have to do that again. Glad it's behind me. I mean, I wasn't for surgery, but, some bodily interventions, inevitable, I guess. So another thing they didn't tell me is they highly recommended androgen deprivation therapy, ADT. What that does is a treatment that has you taking a lot of pills, and basically it dampens your body's ability to generate testosterone, and it comes in 2 forms. One is a drug called Lupron, which is injected near your belly button, in the fat of your belly button, and the injection is Lupron comes in this injection form as a kind of caulking, they described it, kind of a paste, which they inject into your fatty tissue, and it's like time release. And it could be either 1 month, 3 months, or 6 months. And there's another drug called abiraterone, which suppresses testosterone generation from another part of your body. The Lupron from your testicles, it tells your testicles not to generate testosterone, and in the abiraterone, your adrenal glands around your kidneys generate an amount of testosterone. Basically, they want to deprive the cancer, deprive the cancer of its joy, let's just say. Now, this is me talking, not the doctor, but this is what I've gleaned from what I've learned. Because sometimes in the conversation and in the literature, there's some kind of reference that the ADT therapy is actually killing the cancer. I don't think that's true. I think what it's doing is depriving, I'll call it depriving the joy of the cancer. And here's my theory. Different cancers come in different parts of the body. Lung cancer, brain cancer, liver cancer, ovarian cancer. And I think that since cancer is a cell of your body, one of the cells in your organs gone nuts, it has the character of those cells. And so that's why pancreatic cancer or ovarian cancer is like a death sentence, because ovarian cancer, the ovaries generate people. And, you know, with that kind of enthusiasm that built into the cell, it's too hard to manage, and cancer treatments today can't manage it, can't get a grip on the problem as easily as other cancers. And so the prostate basically it exists to generate. I think, again, my theory from gleaning all the literature, I think the prostate is meant to generate a fluid in which the sperm is swimming in, so that I think it's like an alkaline-based fluid, which is meant to neutralize the pH in the female reproductive organs, so that the sperm have a chance to do their job. That's my theory. Sometimes when I've talked to these doctors and I'm like fielding these theories, that you come across different characters, and some characters are very patient and willing to hear, but they're really not taking me seriously, because I'm not a doctor, and they are, and they went through the arduous education to become doctors, and they've earned it for sure. But, you know, I'm reading between lines, I'm gleaning, and I'm coming to my conclusions independently. And as a patient, I have to go through these, go through the information and make my own assessment. This is my assessment. So that the prostate, as a prostate cancer, its joy is doing what prostate cells do. It needs testosterone in order to do its job. Now, what I think is that in order for ADT therapy to work, it takes a lot of time. And that was a big bummer for me, because I was going into this whole thing, I thought that radiation therapy, you know, get zapped, walk away, high five, and I'm done. No, it's ADT therapy was highly recommended. Reluctantly, I agreed. You know, even though I'm questioning all these medical professionals, I'm still accepting their expertise naturally. I'm not crazy. But I was not looking forward to taking the drugs that I'm now taking. And I'm a month into this, and the problem is the side effects. And the side effects that I've been feeling, and when you first get into this, you're reading side effects from WebMD or whatever, and it's scary as hell. You know, growing breasts, stuff like this. Didn't want any of that. And by the way, they offered me, the radiation people, the radiotherapy people, offered to zap the breast buds, as they call it. And I said, I'll take it. I don't want breasts. Because once you grow them, you can't ungrow them, and you know, they surgically have to do other things to do. You know, I don't want that problem. So they zapped that. It was no big deal. So that's not a problem for me. But as a side effect, the biggest problem is the fatigue, which is not predictable, and the let's call it brain fog, both which is not predictable either. The fatigue comes in several varieties. At its worst, it starts off like a backache, and then all of a sudden there's just nothing you want to do. I mean, all you want to do is just crawl into bed and just wait this stuff out. The fatigue is pretty terrible, and the way to counteract it is two ways that both have the same character. You have to power out of it. Now, one way to power out of it is to take weight training, because weight gain, bone loss is another side effect that they're looking out for. And by loading up with weights in the gym, you're sort of working against that tendency of these drugs to strip your body's ability to maintain muscle mass and bone density. I've been doing that. tough thing to do first thing in the morning, get in the gym and push weights around. Not fun. Never liked the gyms that much. Incorporate it into my life, and now I'm doing it. Okay, so it's got a bonus. You know, you feel good after you get out of the gym. So great. I'm happy to do that. Another thing, just in daily life, you got to just power out. You just got to like rig your mind and like start. You just got to just force your way through. And sometimes if I have to be social or something like this, it's very tough. It's like I have to like be all on to make it work. So yeah, so that's where I am right now. I'm in the 1 month into the ADT therapy, and I'm beginning the radiation therapy next week. I've had my markers placed in. I got briefing from everybody, ready to jump in. It's 20 to 40 sessions, probably going closer to 40 sessions of radiation on a Monday through Friday. I rigged it so that I could do it early in the morning, so I get that out of the way and I can get to the studio afterwards. And there's a fatigue that comes with radiation too. So it's fatigue on top of fatigue. So I'm not sure what it's going to be like. I hear it takes a few weeks for the radiation effects to kick in. I call it a day of the beach because it's a bit like a sunburn, but inside you. And basically it's taking that plum in the bottom of the pelvic basket and it's reducing it to a prune. And it takes 20 to 40 sessions to make that happen. And that's the big adventure. So we'll see how it is when I pop out of this experience, but that's what's been happening. And for these panels that I've prepped, right now it's just in the, I'm painting, the process is that I build the panels out, and which is kind of meticulous, multi-step process, and then I paint the panel frames and the backs of the panels where the paintings go on. They're removable. And it takes, I'm doing it in several coats because I kind of want to sort of sneak up on the color, the final color of the paintings. And I want them to sort of multicolor. That's the first decision of the paintings, which kind of weirds out some of my artist friends, because their approach of painting is different from mine. The decision that a painting will have a kind of color character is kind of alien to some people in the art world. I'm fine with it. And so for the next month or so, I think I'll have just enough energy to continue adding coats of paint to these panels and standing between coats and adding other coats until I arrive at that color theme that each of these panels will have. And maybe if I'm lucky, I'll be able to get to a place where I can pull the panels out and then paint them individually. That'd be great. But we'll see how I feel toward the end of this period. But I engineered it so my studio practice is minimal yet productive and effective. So that's it. That's the update and the reason for my ellipsis in this weblog and my absence from social media and this adventure in old age that I'm in right now. I'm an old man, and I think that if you're lucky, you get to see your old years, the years of hopefully wisdom, and I'm thankful for everything up and down in my life. I'm thankful for Stephanie, my wife. It's been my rock. I've met some good people in the VA hospitals. They've treated me well, and even though I've had to absorb all these new experiences I've never really wanted to have done, at least I got the one cancer that is the best of all cancers, and I'm going to get out the other end, and hopefully it'll be at least another 20 years of making artwork that will have to argue for its survival on its own terms.